Welcome to Women Being Loved, a weekly podcast and upcoming book series to help you and other women 35 and beyond attract deep, passionate, lasting love while honoring your authentic self. I'm Tadra, your host. Today is a special day. I am doing my first interview episode ever, and my guest is none other than my husband, Paul. Hey, honey.
Hey, babe.
I invited him on the podcast today because I thought it could be fun for you, my dear listener, to hear us answer some of the same questions that I asked the women for my upcoming book on finding love later in life. We are going to jump in just a minute, but I want to take a moment to just give a little bit of our backstory. Is that okay, babe?
Sure, go for it.
Okay. We met when I was in my early 40s. He was in his 30s.
Mid-30s.
Yeah, because we are 8 years apart. I just need to jump in here for a quick moment and say that this is wrong. Our math is not mathing. I was actually 37 when I met Paul, and he was 29. And then we became a couple when I was in my early 40s, and he was in his mid-30s. Yes, that's how it happened. Thank you. Back to our regularly scheduled program. And we met on a bridal photo shoot for a magazine. I was producing the shoot. I was doing the makeup. He was doing the amazing photography.
Thank you.
And women have often asked me when I tell that story, what were my initial thoughts of Paul? And my answer is, he was busy. I mean, we were both busy. There were no fireworks. So you have to understand that we were both at the time in other relationships. So we were just work associates. And then we painstakingly slowly became friends. I'm talking over years. And then at a point somewhere in there, we were both free from other entanglements. And I was in the process of getting a divorce. So that is the first time that Paul and I really started to look at each other differently than we had been. Mm-hmm. And it was really nice because we had built a friendship first. Would you co-sign on what I said, hon?
Yeah, I think I'll just add a little bit more detail. The relationship that you said that I was in, I had literally started that relationship the weekend before that photo shoot.
Oh, wow.
So my eyes were through my viewfinder, but my brain was on her. So there were no fireworks.
No.
There was nothing. I thought you were nice.
Right.
You know?
Exactly.
But also to say, because we've joked about this before.
What?
When you said that our friendship took a long time to happen.
Yes, it did.
I know, but that was on purpose.
Oh.
Because I wanted to make sure that we kept a mutual professional respect towards each other.
Okay.
And I do that with everybody. I just like to maintain a professional relationship with women that I work with as opposed to becoming too friendly. And really, our friendship didn't really start until we started having mutual friends.
Yes.
And that we had one particular mutual friend who loved to throw dinner parties. Mm-hmm. So we wound up being at the same dinner party, a lot. Right. So
see, I just thought you really didn't like me. Like, I would try and get you on shoots with me sometimes because I could sometimes, for not all the time, but for some of the shoots, I could choose the photographer because I was producing them. And I was just like, I mean, he doesn't like me. He's not even friendly.
No, that was just, maybe I didn't do it so well, but I was just trying to maintain, respectful professional interaction.
Yeah. And I kind of grew up, I didn't have brothers, so I had guy friends. So I was always like, oh, here's a guy that I think is really cool that I could be friends with. And Paul was like, nope.
Sorry about that.
The first thing that I want to tackle today is the concept of the list. And I did 2 episodes on the concept of writing down a list of traits that you want in a partner, and also examining why you want those things. So listeners, if you missed those episodes, they were episode 1 and 2 of season 1, the season we're in right now. And this theme came up constantly in all of the interviews. So I think it's something really fun to touch on. So, Paul,
Yes.
I know that you told me you definitely had a list, but honestly don't remember what was on your list. So today will actually be a refresher for me as well. Would you mind sharing 3 or 4 things that were important to you and how much of the list that I embody?
I had been in a long-term relationship for about 7 or 8 years. And when that relationship ended is in my healing process is when I made my first list. And then my list evolved a bit after I broke up with the woman I was seeing when we met.
Okay.
So the list that I used that you fit into was actually a combination of those two. So I would say some of the most important things. I'm kind of quirky and weird.
No.
Thanks. But I thought it was important that somebody else be as well. And actually, I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm just going to maybe put a couple of bullet points in together into that quirky weird thing. So I'm an artist, and I found in past relationships that it's difficult to be with someone who doesn't understand what it's like to be an artist or to live the artist life.
Yes, definitely.
So that was on the list, and you fit that perfectly. So one other thing in that quirky nature that I was talking about is somebody who enjoys sci-fi. It's my preferred, one of my most preferred anyway, types of entertainment. And I like quiet sci-fi, things that are utopian maybe even. So Star Trek is a big component there.
Yes, of course.
Would you fit the bill?
Yes, definitely. Arrival. Oh
yes.
my God, yeah. All of those kinds of things.
And the thing with Arrival, there is the military component to it, but it's a lesson on listening as opposed to fighting.
Yes.
There were some, and I don't mean to say that things can't be difficult, but that the underlying message is that's not the way.
Right. Yeah,
So.
definitely. We agree on that.
Yeah, for sure.
What else do you have on your list?
I think the biggest next one would be somebody who is kind and has an open heart, someone who cares about other people. And I see that in you.
Oh, thank you.
I think this project is an example of that even. But I love that, you can be walking down the street and you pay attention to people when they talk to you. And that includes people that are unhoused. And you will commonly see people that might be in need. You offer to help them. And you offer to do that in whatever way that you can in the moment. And you engage in conversation. You don't ignore them. And that means a lot to me.
Oh, yeah. I think about the society that we live in and how hard it is sometimes just to survive. And I think for some people, just having someone even just to listen to them makes a huge difference. Like, it's kind of easy to go in your pocket and give somebody a dollar bill versus saying, hey, what's going on with you? What's happening with your day? And so I try to be that person and do it, in a safe way, but definitely. So it makes me happy that that's something that makes you happy, something that you love about me, because I've definitely dated people who were just like, we don't have time for this. What are you doing?
Right.
And I'm like, we always have time for like just being human.
And if we don't have time to stop to talk to people, I mean, really.
Do you want to share another one?
I needed somebody that could communicate well.
So important.
Yeah, it really is. And part of that discussion is having an open mind to different ideas, and I think that's really important also. But can I just squeeze in just like bullet points of some other ones?
Go for it.
I also wanted to be with someone who loves to travel.
You're still in my list now.
Someone who loves food, cooking it, eating it, all of it.
All of it.
And we love to cook together and we love to eat together. Someone who's affectionate. Someone who also believes in constantly growing and self-examination and moving towards being a better version of themselves.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Okay, my turn. Some of our lists actually overlaps, and I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, sure. I think it does make sense.
I'm going to kind of do this like rattle off, and then I'll go back and talk about a couple of them.
Okay.
So I had faithful, creative, adventurous, loves to travel. That one's kind of like a slash, adventurous, loves to travel. treats me with respect, very important. And there were probably like 6 or 7 others, but I think those were like the main ones. And then I had a few things that were, these would be nice to have, but they're not deal breakers. So I don't really think I need to go so deep into the idea of being faithful, because to me, that's a non-discussion. Like, that's baseline.
Right. You shouldn't even use, that shouldn't be a good quality of someone. It should just be their base quality.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And so I just personally feel like if someone can't be faithful, they aren't mature enough for a relationship yet. And trust for me is like really, really huge. Like when we were traveling in Europe, if you don't know, listener, we were nomadic for 3 years throughout Europe and probably would have still been doing it. And then the pandemic came and kind of switched up life for us a bit. But there were times when I was, say, in Spain and Paul was in, where were you, babe?
Oh gosh, that time when you were in Spain, I finished out our house sit in Helsinki. Then I flew to Prague. From Prague, I went to The Hague in the Netherlands, and from there to Zeust in the Netherlands, and then from there I went to London.
Dang.
So in about 6 weeks, I was all those places before we met back up.
And I was in Valencia, Spain through all of that, like on one house sit. But I was posting things on Facebook, and it was obvious. I was like, hey, I'm hanging out in Valencia. And Paul was in one of those 25 places he just named. And people were worried about us. I was getting direct messages from people asking, hey, is everything okay? Because why are you in Spain and Paul is in wherever? And I was just like, because we're having separate adventures. And I had women say like, oh, I wouldn't be comfortable with that at all. Nope, I would never have my guy, say, in Barcelona and I'm in Stockholm. And, I guess that's understandable. I've been in that place when I was younger because I dated men who definitely 100% were not trustworthy. So I am very lucky now because I have zero worry about your fidelity when we're apart. It's a non-issue.
Likewise. I don't even think about it.
Yeah. It's great to not have to navigate that. Like, that's just extra baggage.
For sure.
Okay. Next thing on my list, creative. Just as you said. So I wanted someone creative because I'm a creative, and I really wanted someone who spoke my language, who looked at the world in a very artistic way, and particularly visually artistic. And so I leaned heavily towards a photographer specifically. Like, that was on my list. I had worked in New York City for all those years. I'd been on shoots all the time, and it just seemed like a good fit for me because, I was a celebrity makeup artist, if you guys don't know that. And then later I produced shoots. I was a contributing editor. And so I just really was like, hey, a photographer would be really nice, but not a fashion photographer. I found their egos just way unbearable.
Yeah, not a fashion photographer here.
Yeah. But I definitely, I definitely was like, a photographer would be very cool. And I got one.
You got one.
I got one. I snagged him. Paul is a fine art photographer for my listeners who don't know. The next thing on my list is traveling and a sense of adventure. And I started traveling when I was 13 years old. My first international trip was to Canada. And then I did, that was at 13. And then at 14, I went to Paris. I went to London, to Frankfurt, to Lucerne.
That was a lot more travel than I did as a kid. I spent the summer I was 15 turning 16 in Spain.
Oh, that sounds nice.
Yeah, in Madrid, stayed with friends a family that had become friends through an exchange student that my dad had.
Okay, that sounds pretty cool. But I'm not done. In my in my early 20s, I went to Iceland, and that was for a photo shoot with Elle magazine. And then I went to the Philippines in my late 20s with my church at the time. So all of these trips were with friends or a church or work, but I never did not a single international trip with anyone that I was dating.
And see, I'm hearing your list, and the only places that we went together that were on your list that you've been to was London.
Right.
I would love to go to all those other places with you.
Oh, well, we got to plan that.
We do. Iceland especially. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. At the time, I feel like I didn't enjoy Iceland to the fullness that I should have.
Right.
But part of that was the company I was with.
That was the company.
Yes,
yeah,
I won't
for
get
sure.
into that.
I just can't imagine not traveling.
Yeah, exactly. I've always felt that way. But I was constantly with men that just had no sense of exploration at all. Like, weren't even curious. And I found this to be true a lot with like much older men that I was dating. It was kind of like they just wanted, quote unquote, a normal life.
Well, I think that's the difference between the artist personality and life versus other personalities and ways of living. And it's no judgment, because I wouldn't want anybody judging my chosen lifestyle. But, there are people who definitely take the career track and they need to pursue that forward, so I can see maybe finding some difficulty in traveling, but that has to be part of life.
I don't know. I mean, if you have a corporate job, my gosh, you do get time off. Like, I'm talking, yes, they couldn't do what we do, right? They couldn't be nomadic, but like, I couldn't even convince them to do an international vacation.
Oh, see, that's different. Right. Okay. So, and that's where this lands on your list then.
Right.
Is having somebody who's willing to go outside of the comfort zone.
Exactly.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I get it. I get it.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's putting it perfectly. Now, a lot of people probably wouldn't be comfortable with selling all of their things and
probably not.
Yeah. And becoming a nomad for 3 years in 18 countries. But that's a big part of my personality. And so, like, I suggested the idea of becoming nomadic, and you were so on board. You were just like, yes, let's sit down. Let's figure out how to do it, and I love that. You make life an adventure.
And it's not the first time we did it. If you think about it, we moved to Philadelphia together because I was going there for a contract that I had. Mm-hmm. So we sold a lot of the stuff from the life where we met.
Right, because we both had a house.
Right. So, and we combined them a bit, and then we downsized those to just barely an apartment. Mm-hmm. And then again, 2 years later, we were like, let's move to Los Angeles. And we sold everything that wouldn't fit in the back of the car or that wasn't, completely necessary.
I shipped my books to my friend.
Yes.
I did do that.
Yes, you did. and then we sold everything again to do our international traveling. So we do this. It's our thing together.
Yes, it's true. It's true. Okay, so we've covered the travel aspect. I'm going to get back to my list. The last thing that I'm going to highlight, I'm sure there were so many other things I could actually talk about, but the episode would take forever, is actually the most important thing for me, and that is being treated with respect. And for me, that means being an equal in every capacity in this relationship. We are partners. I have dated men who got really butthurt over my achievements, it's true, over my ambition, and they competed with me.
I can't understand that. We're different people. I don't understand the competition.
And also, like, we're a team. Like,
right. You should be working together, not against each other.
Exactly. They were obviously threatened by strong women. They did not like women who acted like adults instead of their teenage daughter.
Yeah, see, there are a couple of things in there. My mother was a really strong woman. So are both my sisters. Mm-hmm. Actually, all my aunts, my grandmother.
Yes, they are.
I grew up in a family full of strong women, so that's not strange to me. The other aspect is that I don't understand that cultural phenomenon of looking at women as subordinate or childish.
Thank you.
What is that?
Why? Why don't you want a full-grown woman?
And I shouldn't say childish. I mean childlike. Mm-hmm. Childish and childlike, slightly different, but
yes.
I meant to say childlike.
Yeah, and that just never worked for me. First off, as you said about the women in your family, the women in my family are the same way.
Oh, I know. I see.
And, I went to an all-girls Catholic school, and I know that sounds weird to mention that in this context, but they mentored us to be modern women in the world, which surprises a lot of people. Like they assume going to a Catholic all-girls school meant that we were being, raised to be wives, but we weren't.
That's pretty amazing.
No, it was. They were very, very progressive. I grew up with just a keen confidence that I could do anything.
And you can, and that confidence still shows through.
Thank you. And my mom was a part of that too, not just my school, but this is how I grew up. And so then I had, a spiritual experience. I started attending an evangelical church, and the messaging there was very much that I had to fit into a box because of my gender. And I saw some marriage dynamics that just felt very archaic to me. And I said to myself, I will never do that. I will never give up my power or my personhood to someone else because of gender, sexuality, or really any reason. Mm-hmm. And you've never wanted that from me.
No, I don't want you to give up anything. I want you to be the largest expression of who you are.
Ditto. I want the same for me and the same for you.
Thank you.
Because we're humans. We're full-on humans.
Right. Can I interject here for a minute?
Yeah.
Because this part of your conversation reminds me about something that neither of us talked about on our lists, but we've talked about to each other in private about our lists.
Okay, what?
Spirituality.
Yes.
And belief systems and how we respect each other in that regard. Mm-hmm. Because I was in a long-term relationship, 7, almost 8 years, with a woman who towards the end of the relationship really wanted me to follow her faith because she didn't believe that she could spend her life with someone who didn't believe the same way as her. And I am not a religious person. Mm-hmm. I don't believe in a creative force. Mm-hmm. But I have a degree of spirituality that I think has been growing for a while now. And I thought that from that experience, I didn't want to be with someone who was religious. Mm-hmm. And you actually had the opposite take for a while, right?
Yes, absolutely. I was very religious when we met. And that was actually the one thing on my list that you didn't encompass. And I struggled with it a little bit at the beginning. Like I was like, wow, what does this mean? But I think looking back at it now, I'm really grateful that wasn't a part of us, because if I had married a man from my church and then I ended up where I am now, which is I love God. I absolutely do. But I have no interest in religion. I don't want the extra baggage that comes with that. So if I, entered into a marriage with someone else as that persona, we may be divorced now.
Right. It doesn't suit your core personality, as you just mentioned.
Right. And it's hard. Like you marry someone and then say they do a 180. You're like, what happened here? I thought I knew what I was getting.
Right. And we knew from the very beginning. We had lots of conversations about it. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I believe that a lot of who you are is, outside of the influences you had with how you were raised and whatnot, is also your faith. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't want you to change that. I love that about you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I try very much to live out my faith versus living a religious expression of that faith. Okay, I think we have covered the list really well. Let's move on. One of the other questions I asked the women in the interviews for the book was, what are things you really love about your husband, your wife, your partner, your significant other? And I enjoyed how varied the answers were. I got everything from he's silly to she makes me feel safe. So let's talk about what we love about each other. And this time I would really like if we just went back and forth. You okay with that?
Yeah, okay. Let's do it.
All right, let's start with you.
Put me on the spot.
Yes.
Okay. Well, this is kind of connected to the list question, honestly. I love that you're kind and gentle. You have your personality and you know yourself and you have a direction, but you're kind. And I love that. I love that you're kind.
Thank you.
Yes.
Mine. You know what? I have always admired your moral compass.
Thank you.
Yeah, how you interact with women in particular. So I got to be around you because we were working together.
Right.
And I got to see how you interacted with female friends, with other work associates, sometimes with girlfriends, because remember that Christmas party I
yes,
had
right.
and you brought
Yeah.
your girlfriend. And I didn't have a stake in any of this. I was married, you were in your relationship. So it didn't have an ulterior motive, but I just admired seeing a man, especially a younger man, treating women the way that you treated women.
Thank you. It's really important to me. I think it's paramount to treat everyone with respect, and women especially. I was in high school and I just made this decision. I can't even remember what the stimulus was, but I made this decision that, it might have been idealistic. It might have been from a movie, honestly, watching how a certain character was kind but chivalrous thing. I don't even remember what movie it might have been, but I just made this decision inside myself that I am always going to strive to be nice, to be kind, have respect.
I see it. I see it in how you treat people. I remember a particular incident that you and I were going on a photo shoot, and I remember your girlfriend at the time, her car broke down.
Oh yeah, she got a flat tire. She was on her way to work.
Yeah, okay.
And she was a 9-to-5er, so yeah.
I couldn't remember all the details, but I remember that her car broke down in some way, and we were on our way to the shoot, and you were just like, I will swing back around, I will catch up, I will get the shots, but I need to go help my girl. And I was like, oh my goodness, I love it. I loved just it. You didn't even think about it. It was like, nope, gotta go help my girl.
That's exactly the way it should be.
Yeah.
And, sometimes life needs to be put on pause so you can help the people you love.
And then ironically, my car just kept breaking down after that. It was
Ironically,
like,
huh?
No, stop that. It was the universe bringing us together. But yes, my car was like brand new and my battery was constantly dying. And I swear I would even call like mutual friends and be like, hey, I'm stuck again. Can you come and get me? And they would be like, oh, Paul's here. I'm going to send Paul. I'm like, no, not again. Because I knew that it looked like, okay, this is what you're doing.
No, in all honesty, no, I never thought that. And I never saw you as the damsel in distress. None of that helplessness. Just things happen.
Yeah.
You needed help, and I was there, and I was glad that I was able to offer it.
Thank you. Okay, your turn.
Okay, so my next item would be, I love that you let me be me. You're okay with my expression as an artist. You're okay with how I take time to myself. You're just okay with me being me. And that's really important because some people don't want you to necessarily be you. They want you to be the idealized version that they think you are.
Oh, yeah, that's hard to live up to.
It's impossible to live up to.
Right, especially if that's just not who you are.
Right, exactly. You don't have that expectation.
No, I want you to be authentically you, even if some of those points are a little prickly for me, because that's just two people coming together.
Yeah, we're different people, of course, and we need to understand and respect that. Mm-hmm. But you're okay with that. Even when we have to have conversations, sometimes you're like, it's you. That's fine.
Right. Absolutely. Well, it goes back to what I said earlier. I want someone who respects me and treats me as an equal. So then why in the world would I treat you any differently?
That's a great perspective. All right, you're up.
Oh, that was quick. Okay. I would say the way that you taught me to communicate. And that's a really big one because, I communicate well in a work situation. In a relationship setting, I didn't have the greatest examples of what that should look like. And so an argument for me meant, oh, we're breaking up, or I need to sort of puff myself up like a rooster and act really tough so that I don't look vulnerable or get stomped on.
Right. Yeah, we have these protection mechanisms, don't we?
Absolutely.
And we learn communication styles.
Yes. Yeah. And a lot of relationships I've had in the past, people either came at me verbally, like really hard, or they just shut down. And so I didn't really know what to do. And so when we had our first few arguments, I remember you were just like, hey, we need to talk. And I was like, talk? What? What? No, we don't need to talk. We need to throw things at each other. You know?
For all fairness, she never threw anything.
No, I didn't. But, yeah, just learning that it's okay to sit down and talk and say, this is what hurt. This is how vulnerable I felt. And you also taught me about triggers. Like, did I actually do something, or did the thing I say or do trigger something in you?
Right. Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah. And so
I don't think a lot of people actually take time to think about what their triggers are.
exactly. So it's like, you did this. And then it's like, oh, wait, you did do that, but maybe it didn't warrant the response that I'm having. That's something completely different.
Right.
And that's been helpful with work situations. That's been helpful with friends. I'm able to be like, hey, I love you, but we need to talk because this is not working, like communicating in a way that's aggressive. So I'm really grateful for that. It's been a big change for me.
Well, you know what's really weird? We've been together for so long now. I don't even remember that in the beginning that, we had to figure that out. It just, our conversation is so natural and so easy. Even when we have disagreements, or, we still have the occasional argument even, but it's healthy, I guess.
Yeah.
It's not to the point of, I'm kind of this, I'm a little bit the same way, that I had some relationships with people that they just blew up. And, that caused some anxiety.
Yeah.
I feel no anxiety when we argue.
Right.
The few times that it happens. So, yeah, but I don't even remember that beginning stage.
Oh my God. I remember it because my early childhood was fraught with a lot of pain and a lot of abuse, to just be frank. And so any kind of confrontation was very hard for me. I thought, again, it brought up the triggers.
Right.
So I thought I was in emotional danger, and you helped me see that I wasn't.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm glad that I was able to help.
Yeah.
Glad it worked.
Yeah. So that was mine. Do you have one more? Because I have one more.
Well, I love that you're ambitious.
Oh.
I love that you have creative ideas and business ideas, and you see things through and you do them. Having motivation to see something through is a difficult thing to do for, I think, just about anybody. And you take things and make something of them.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay. After that, mine sounds really like, But I love that you're a cat whisperer. And cats just love you and they follow you wherever we go.
Love cats.
And I love cats, so it's a perfect fit. Like, I like dogs. I don't dislike any animal, but I consider it a plus that I'm with someone who is a cat person.
Definitely. And, that kind of relates back to a little part of the list is being an animal lover and a cat person specifically.
I didn't have animal lover on my list.
I did.
Oh, okay. But I think that you're really kind to animals and they know that. And so they can pick up that energy from you.
It's interesting because I think just about everybody in my immediate family is. My sister worked for the Humane Society and she was a vet tech and she does animal rescue. And my older sister loves animals and has rescued animals. And, I think my mother gave that to us. She was as much an animal lover as she was a lover of people.
I grew up with animals. I had a squirrel growing up.
I would love to have a squirrel.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe not, but I like the idea.
They're really sweet. They make great pets. They're fun. But and I had a couple of cats too. We had a dog, but that didn't work out. We ended up giving him to a police officer. I think just the whole concept of how you interact with animals, especially when we were in Turkey. And there were just cats everywhere. And
Everywhere.
they were in cafes, they were in the mosque. Like, if you're allergic to cats, just don't go to Turkey. No. But for us, it was like heaven.
Yeah,
I
it was
loved
like
it.
a cat vacation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Definitely. Wow, this has been so much fun. Did
It
you have
is.
fun?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I love talking to you.
Aw. I'm glad that you were willing to do it. And the thing that I really want to stress with this podcast is that you can find someone who makes sense with who you are, even if you've had relationships in the past that just didn't fit right and made you feel like, well, something's wrong with me because I can't find somebody who likes my quirky, crazy self, and that's just not true. It's not true. It may take a while, but I want you to have hope. I want you to believe in love still. And it's not just because of us. There are so many women, almost 50 actually, in the book that I will be putting out soon, that tell their stories of finding love at 35 or later. So it's not just for 20-somethings as rom-coms would have you believe. And it can be rich and mature and wonderful and all of those things. So I hope that this gave you hope. I also learned from this that I would like us to do another one, and maybe he's like, don't push it. But no, maybe like deal with some of the other questions that I asked the women for the interviews, because some of them really dug into some heart spaces. And if you're comfortable doing that, I think it would, again, be a blessing to other people to hear those things. And, it's not all rosy. I mean, we honestly have a really fantastic relationship, and I'm so grateful for it. But as we said earlier, we're two different people.
Right.
And so there are things to work through to get to this point, and there's growth for both of us.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm game.
Okay, awesome. Well, this is the end of season 1, and I'm going to take a break for about a month and work on the book, because goodness knows I have to get that book finished now. And sometimes it's hard to do the podcast and the book, but I will be back in 4 weeks with some really fun episodes, and please stay tuned.